Dearly beloved, we are gathered here today to get through this thing called life. You should know where that comes from. I hope you do. If you're a child of the 80s, child of the 90s, that should be recognizable to you as coming from a Prince song. One of my favorites, Let's Go Crazy. Okay. Now, if you've participated in the Die, Laugh, Love podcast before, you'll have noticed that there are certain themes that come about. That I am a medium and I do channel the dead, our dearly departed. But I've also had very peculiar episodes where I've channeled other spirits outside of the dead or the dearly departed. Those spirits would include fairies, angels, the spirits of animals and pets and trees. So that should illustrate to folks how wild the world of spirit is. Now, this episode 13, came to me last week. When I was done episode 12, I knew exactly what episode 13 was going to be about. Now, episode 13, the spirits that work with me, the angels, what have you, they do have a sense of humor. One of the things that humans do very well is entertain divine spirit. Absolutely entertain. There is a sense that divinity is entertained by us, and thereby you should be entertaining as much as you can be. But imagine for a moment how boring eternity must be without stories, without our lives. You know, if you think of the planet Earth and the seasons happening over and over and over through the millennia, you know, snow falling, snow melting, the sun rising, the sun setting, over a certain amount of time, I think that becomes boring. But you know what isn't boring? You and I. These brief lives that we have, these brief stories that we tell with our lives, they are certainly not boring. They're dramatic and fun and full of comedy and full of tragedy. When we are born into this world, I think that we go through what I call the great forgetting. When we die, we go through the great remembering. So we'll go to the world of spirit. We'll have a life review. We'll know from a grander perspective, perhaps, why this story of life and death happens over and over again. But the world that we're in, this world, is the world of mystery. And I am a firm believer that as spiritual seekers, I'm going to consider myself a spiritual seeker. I'll consider everybody here to be a spiritual seeker, that we are creatures and souls that ask questions. We wonder what the meaning of life is. We wonder why we live and we die. We wonder, we have all of these questions. And I think when we search for the meaning to life, that when we search for spiritual meaning, when we search for the great why of everything, I think that we're asking the unanswerable question. I think that as humans, we are limited by our perspective and our humanity to be able to know the great wisdom and the great mystery of eternity and divinity. But that unanswerable question, we have to ask it. I think we should ask it. I think we should seek and explore and turn over stones, turn over rocks, try to find the answers as much as we can. And as this world that we're in requires us to ask the unanswerable question, you have to also understand that you are an unanswerable question. That as vast and as wide and as wild as the world is, and the world of spirit is, and divinity, the universe itself, you'll never know everything about this world. You'll never know everything about the relationship between life and death, the physical and the spiritual. You'll never know everything about yourself. Don't ever stop asking that question. Don't ever stop seeking an answer within yourself. Don't ever stop finding out about yourself. Now, being that we are in the land of mystery, being that we do seek the unanswerable question, episode 13, well, I'll tell you, the spirits that work with me are a little cheeky, a little funny. And the reason why I say that is because Being the number 13, we shouldn't lean into superstition, but today's episode is all about haunted houses. Haunted houses. Now, I'm going to share with you some of the wisdom and some of the experience that I've picked up along the way and some of the knowledge that I have been receiving over the course of the years that I've done this. But before I get into that, I'm going to ask you to drop all of your preconceived notions about what a haunted house is. Okay? Because we have this idea that somebody dies and perhaps their soul gets stuck in a certain place. And I don't see that happening. I've never really experienced it like that. There are all sorts of reasons why spirit of all types might be in a residence and affecting that residence, as it were. But I want to talk to you about something that's peculiar here to me because I've had three different sets of experiences coming to me and three different types of situations that I want to share with you. And I want you to remember that this is a participatory event, that when I start to describe the spirit, when I start to describe the home or the building, I want you to feel free to wave your hand, unmute yourself, say, hey, I think this is me. I think this is the story about me. Okay. So I do see a number of screens that are video free, and that's absolutely fine. If this is something for you, I want you to pop open your video, pop open your audio, wave your hand and say, hey, I think this applies to me. Now, these three sets of experiences are going to show us three different types of spirits, I believe, and three different types of situations where spirits can, here's my use of air quotes, haunt houses. Okay. Before we begin with that, I think that we have to talk about something that's really important to take into consideration. The fact that we have houses, the fact that we have shelter and abodes to call home, whether it is an apartment, whether it's a home, if you have a roof over your head and you're not unhoused, you are incredibly lucky. You live in a place of privilege and luxury, and that's important to remember because we have so many fellow humans right now that do not have homes, that are unhoused due to climate tragedies, due to war, due to pestilence, due to so many different circumstances. So here's a reminder that, the next time you have a bad day, the next time you might find yourself a little pissy, I want you to remember, if you got a home to go back to, if you have a bed to lie in, if you have food in your cupboard, I want you to remember how good you have it, because there are so many of our fellow brothers and sisters in this world that don't have those things. So that's an important shift and an important concept to remember as you go through your tough days. Okay. So I want to describe to you the part of the home that I'm seeing. Okay, so the first spirit is attached to a very nice home. So this is a nice home. I do believe that he was involved in building this home, but I want to talk to you about the things I'm seeing in the home. Okay. Does anybody here have a home that on the interior of the home, in a place between rooms, there's an archway? There's an archway. Most often we see like a squared top to a ceiling to a room, but I want to talk about a potential archway on the inside of the home between one room and the other. The other thing that I want to talk about, hi, Mary Jane, I saw your hand go up. The other thing that I want to talk about is built-in bookcases, bookshelves in the wall. Any bookcases, bookshelves built into the wall.
Josh,
Hi.
I have archways as well as built-in bookcases. But did you reference he?
Yes.
Okay.
So, Allison, thank you for speaking up. Do you know anything about the person who built this house?
I do not.
Okay, so that's why we're talking about this. Okay, so if you wouldn't mind, would you mind taking your video and putting it on for us?
Yeah, I'm trying to figure that out. I'm on my, oh, there we go. I'm on my iPhone. Here we go.
Hello. Okay, so I'm going to join you in Spotlight. We're going to have a conversation here about this. So thank you for bringing this up. So, Allison, archway in the home and then built-in bookshelves. Okay. Do you know roughly the age of the home?
1935.
Okay. So here's something that I suspect, and I'm not sure that you'll be able to validate this, but I would want you to research the home here. Okay.
Hmm.
So, in your home, do you have anything that looks like pillars? Like any
Yes.
pillars? Like you do?
Yes. In my kitchen.
Okay. In your kitchen. Okay. I believe your home was built by a Freemason. Okay. So somebody that would have like been in the Freemasons. Here's an interesting thing. I do believe that this person put their heart and soul into this building. I believe they poured their heart and their soul into this building. One of the things that I'm getting right now that I would have you pay attention to is the direction the home is facing. Okay, in terms of, is it facing, does the front door face east? Take a look at things like that. All right, because there there is so much about Freemasonry that is just, I'm not going to get into it here, but wild. It's wild and accurate and real, and they're messing around with Egyptian magic, and there's all sorts of things to be said about Freemasonry. But you have a spirit in your home, okay? And let's not get too caught up in the difference between spirit and soul, even though there is.
Mm.
The person who built your home, Allison, would have poured their heart and soul into the home, would have seen it almost as a member of their family, okay? And would very much want to be there. And I have to pass this message of appreciation on to you. You also see your home as sacred, don't you? Like a sacred
Oh, it's
space.
it's my sanctuary. Absolutely.
It's your sanctuary. What I'm
Hmm.
supposed to do is I'm supposed to praise you for treating it as such. You have this home that's almost 100 years old, built by what I believe was a Freemason, somebody who liked to read, somebody who was well read. I believe that your books are in your shelves full of varied subjects, very photography and birds and spirituality and all sorts of things. Yes.
Hmm.
Okay, so this is very much a Renaissance man, somebody who wouldn't have been pigeonholed into one subject or topic. This is somebody who needs to acknowledge the way that you care for the home. Now, I also want to speak to you about the renovations or the remodeling that you've done in a very sacred way. Have you done remodeling and renovations?
We have not, but the woman who was, we just bought the house last April, so not quite a year ago. The woman who um, was here previously, um, she did some renovations.
Okay.
So, and then kept everything in the same manner, the same period and whatnot.
Yes, 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 yes. So there's this acknowledgement that the home is being cherished, and it's interesting that, and it's fascinating that Freemasonry, the idea of masonry and building with sacred geometry and lining up buildings to face certain directions in certain ways, there's a magic to the structures that we live in. And it's really important for you to remember that. Now, I've seen a lot of headaches happen for people when people will go into these sacred to spirit homes and start to rip down walls, and they'll start to abuse the home, and they'll start to put in all of these synthetic plastic materials. The spirits that are of love in that home, who treat that home like a member of their family, they get upset by that. They'll absolutely get upset by that. That's like hurting a member of their family because there's something sacred to that space. There's something very important to that space. So the lesson, the wisdom here is that our homes are sacred, and we should be doing everything that we can to honor that, especially if they are historical, especially if they're historical. Now, can I ask you, Allison, what's special about the roof, the roofing material? Is it slate? Is there something special about the roof?
We actually just replaced the roof, and it is a slate composite in copper.
Do you see what's happening here? I'm getting this message for you that you've even taken care of the house, the roof in that way to make sure that it's honored. It's almost like a museum. I would really think about your house as a sacred space. Okay. I also want to ask you about a reading nook. Is there like a reading nook or a small like room or closet or something that's like just feels so cozy to be in?
There is. It's my yoga slash playroom for my granddaughter. It's a tiny little room off of a spare bedroom. And that's where I do my meditation, my yoga. Um, yeah,
I love it. Now, I want to ask you about, is there a is there a bar? Well, not that, and that's a rough way to say it, but is there like a transition from one room to the next that's like a waist high, like almost like a bar?
there is, but that's where the pillar is that you spoke of, and it's actually a little bit higher than waist high, but then there's a an area that jets, I say jets out. It's a little nook where we have two stools that we eat at.
Okay. Uh, here's what I would have you do to honor this spirit. Here's what I'm getting. Okay. Uh, Consider, please, uh, a vase of flowers. I'm seeing sunflowers, a vase of flowers or yellow daisies on that sort of is higher than waist high. You said it's near the kitchen. I get that this man's wife would have appreciated that. I think that he might have put flowers there, or she might have always had cut flowers. But to honor him, you have, for lack of a better way to put it, a house guardian. Okay, like a house guardian. You have a soul that is very much attached to the home that you're in because it's a sacred place. You're in a home, Allison, that's a sacred place.
So
That's fascinating.
the woman who lived here before us actually died in the home um, last March, and it was so that's I was also thinking about whether or not she was part of this whole reading as well. Of course,
I
I'd like
don't
to
get
think
that.
that.
Right. I don't get that. So I want to tell people what I'm gonna take a moment here to tell people what I believe a ghost is, like a
Mhm.
technical defined ghost. Okay. So when I use this analogy a lot, that when we're alive, we're the marriage of flesh and spirit, horse and rider. Okay. Our body's the horse, our soul is the rider. There is a, we use the word spirit and soul interchangeably, and they shouldn't be used interchangeably because they're not the same thing. And I use them interchangeably all the time, and I should probably check myself on that. So when a person dies, okay, when a person dies, their soul, the eternal part of themselves, passes on to the afterlife, to that process, all of that. There is nothing that we can experience as humans that can corrupt that process. Nothing. Nothing corrupts that. Our body is animated by, for lack of a better way to put it, an electrical force called a spirit. Okay. That spirit, when the electrical part of us, the spiritual part of us passes away, and we pass away in a healthy way, that spirit kind of goes into the big earth battery. It gets recycled into that energy. If it goes on, I'm not sure, but there's a separation of spirit and soul at the time of death. Now, if a person passes away from a very traumatic death, sudden death, traumatic death, what have you, there is a process where that spiritual passing gets corrupted and the spirit can get stuck. Now, when people talk about moving ghosts on or spirits on, it's this part. This is why this is a heavy word. I despise ghost hunters. I despise ghost hunting shows. I despise ghost hunters. I don't like them. They're very much not based in compassion because they'll go into a space where something like this might have happened and they're poking at ghosts. But what they're actually doing is it's like they're going in there and they're bothering like an animal or a child or something that's kind of stuck in that way. And they do need to be moved on. There's a process of moving them on and helping them kind of go to the next stage. But I despise ghost hunters. I despise people who don't have respect for that, going into homes or places. And oftentimes they kind of get what they deserve because they're abusing something that is stuck and vulnerable. So you don't have a ghost, Allison. You don't have a ghost. What you have is a soul that has chosen in the afterlife to look after this home. And that speaks to the power of Freemasonry, what that sort of school of thought or spirituality might do to a person in the afterlife, what it might encourage them to see as important. But you don't have a ghost or a spirit, you have a soul that is looking after this house as one of its almost offspring, for lack of a better way to put it. Okay, it's very special in the earthly world. Why this happens? I don't believe this couple or this people that built this house had any children. If they did, the family line petered out. The soul that's watching over this house doesn't have anything to do right now looking over descendants, looking over grandchildren, looking over great grandchildren, which is usually what we do as souls in the afterlife looking over the earthly realm. This is like you're in a home that's like a child. You're in a home that's like a child, and it couldn't be in better hands. I'm sure that it was kismet, that led you there. I'm sure that it was something very special that led you there. So you're a very fortunate individual, Allison, to have such a beautiful home and to have a soul of that home looking out over that whole process. Okay, what I would encourage you to do, if you can, you might not be able to, is do your best to fill this home up with laughter of children. Okay, so if there are any like small kids, grandkids, anything like that, fill it up with the laughter of children. I do get that that has a particularly pleasing effect on this man. I do believe because he might not have had kids of his own. Okay. I'm also getting that I believe his wife might have passed away from like tuberculosis or one of those illnesses back in the 30s, what have you. Um, but thank you. I see you, humming and talking to yourself, humming and like flitting about the home, doing all of those things that you're very much loved and appreciated. Now, what that means too is that should you ever pass this home on, you're going to want to make sure that the people you pass it on to are going to treat it with as much dignity and respect and love. Should you ever move on and from this home, or what have you. Make sure that it is in, some sort of will or after effects that, the people, this is like a deep application process. You don't want to sell it to
Mm,
people that are going to turn it into a condo or, a short-term rental or anything like that. You're
right.
in a very sacred space. You're in a sacred space. So, uh, the other thing too, can I ask, is the chimney brick?
Yes. Actually, no, I
Okay,
take that back.
what is it?
Stone, stone,
Stone.
fieldstone.
Okay.
Hmm.
Do you know of like where the chimney meets the roof that it needs some repair? Do you know about any repair on the chimney?
Um, we had, when the roof was done, we had everything, make sure that it was all like it should be. But there wasn't any major repair.
Okay. just keep an eye on it for the next few years. You know, if it's masonry, crumbly masonry, what have you, any old masonry sometimes needs to be repaired or patched. Um, just make sure of that. And I just want to pass on this. Keep an eye on where the roof meets the chimney. Okay, so I don't know if that's going to need to be addressed later. I don't know if I'm seeing it like where the roof meets the chimney. I'm not sure if that was sealed appropriately, flashed appropriately, whatever it is, but I want you to pay
Okay.
attention to it because that's what I'm seeing. Okay,
Okay.
like there might be a trouble spot there. All right.
Okay.
Um, is the floor is the floor of the basement dirt?
No, concrete
Is concrete? Okay.
or
There's
some sort of, yep.
there's no part there's no part of the basement at all, like even a little corner that would have dirt on it, like an
There is an area where there's like a sump pump and all of that.
okay. Here's a good segue into the next reading. Okay, so there is and this is kind of what I'm being told to tell you. There is a certain music that can be played that is clearing, of negative energies or what have you. Uh, please make a note of Hildegard von Bingen. So she's a medieval. Do you know who that is?
Yes.
Okay. Um, please put that on your phone and please go play like an hour of that music down in your basement where the dirt is.
Okay. Uh,
Why is that a thing? Do you know? I mean, I could tell you
I,
why, but like, why are you laughing at that?
I don't know. It just seems so it's so weird that you should say that because I was in Europe recently and they had the little music boxes that you can wind up, and that was one of the artists of one of the songs. Of course, I'm trying to remember which exact song it was, because I remember buying one for my granddaughter, and that was one of the artists that of all the little tiny, which what are those music box I'm talking about where they have like they spin and
Mhm.
the metal just, yeah. So that's just weird that you should say that.
Well, so there are, like I said, all sorts of spirits out there. There's land spirits, and I noticed that when and I've talked about this in blogs and other of these episodes, but when a home has a dirt floor, and perhaps like negative stuff has been done in the home or what have you, there's more of a propensity for like land spirits to be there. And every once in a while, because you have this exposed dirt where the sump pump is in the basement, you might want to go down and just play a little bit of Hildegard von Bingen to kind of clear the energy out. Okay, it just feels like it would be good to do that. And sometimes sacred space needs to be reset. The Freemasons were all about ceremony and ritual and calling upon higher powers, and lots of powerful stuff. It sometimes needs to be reset, and you can do that, I think, just by playing that music. So thank you for showing up today. Thank you for bringing your wonderful home to us. Thank you for taking care of the home. Thank you for taking care of that home so much. So I'm going to take you off spotlight because I have to go to the next house and the next spirit that wants to come through. So thank you, Allison, for being here. Again, remember that what we're going to do now is we're going to be, how do I say? Remember, it's participatory. So you're going to want to come in to this. What I'm doing is I'm looking for somebody who is in, I believe, a mobile home. Okay. Like a mobile home. Some people call it a trailer, mobile home. Hi. There we go. Okay, so Aaron, C, and family. So hold on one second because there's more that I'm going to add to it. There's more that I'm going to add to it. Okay, because you might not be the only mobile home here. Okay, so would you have known of? And you might not know this. You might not be able to validate this. Would you have known, Aaron, of a really angry, bitter man who would have passed away there? So it's been lived in before, right? It's been lived in before. Okay. So here's something. Nobody else has a mobile home that has been passed away in, okay? Because here's something that's going on in this home. So Aaron, if you're the only one with a mobile home, then you're going to be this. I'm going to ask you to oh, hold on. Hi Sheena. Hold on. I'm going to have you unmute yourself.
Oh,
There we
hi
go.
there. Um,
Hi.
I live in a mobile home, and the previous owners, it was a married couple, and I know the fellow passed away here. I don't know that he was an angry man, but yeah, he died here. I'm pretty sure.
He he did. Okay. And are you in it currently?
Yes.
Okay. So, Aaron, thank you for waving your hand, but Sheena, I believe this is for you. Okay.
Okay.
So, but remember that all of these spirits, all of these stories that come forth are to benefit everybody that's here. So, what I'm about to share with you, Sheena, is very, very important to everybody that's here, especially for people who have homes that were once lived in. Okay. So, I'm going to put you on spotlight and I'm going to join you on the spotlight. We're going to have a funny conversation about what's going on in your home. Okay. So what I get is that this man, I think there would have been deep like fighting or emotional turmoil or anger in this home. So I want to talk to people about something that happens to the homes that we live in. And I think a lot of people can relate to this. A lot of people can relate to the idea of walking into certain spaces, certain homes, certain buildings, and feeling like warm and fuzzy, or feeling like, oh, there's just something wrong with this place. Okay. Sheena, can you tell me if you feel like, oh, there's something wrong with the home that you live in?
Um, I don't get a strong sense of that often. I mean, it is. I mean, I moved to a really different area of the country for me, I guess. So there's challenges here. There's a lot of wildlife, like a lot of crazy chores I've never heard of. But yeah, I don't. Sometimes it's rigorous, I guess. But I don't generally have like a ick.
Okay, how long have you
Feeling.
been there?
Oh shoot, like 2.5, 3 years.
Okay. So here's something that I'm going to give to you because there's this lesson. Again, remember, there's this wisdom of what can happen to homes. So let's take a home where there's been a lot of emotional turmoil. And Aaron and family, I want you to listen to this as well because this might apply to you, okay, as well, Aaron and family. So let's take a home, a building that has been thought in and yelled in, and just nasty emotions have rolled off people. Here's what I've discovered is that organic material like wood and stone, okay, wood and stone in buildings like the ones we live in, the best way I can describe them is that they act like sponge speakers. So what they'll do is they will absorb the negative emotions from everybody that's in there. Okay. And like a sponge, they'll fill up and they'll become saturated. And then they'll start to broadcast that energy out like a speaker. Okay. And that can happen. And then we go into these places and we can just feel like, oh, and it's emotional residue. I have to tell you, Sheena and perhaps Aaron, that this man is sorry for filling up the domicile of somebody else with all of this negative energy. Okay, that can have an effect on some people more than it can on others, and it can also become almost infectious. Like if you take somebody that is worn out, they're not taking care of themselves, they're too tired, they're working too hard, they might start to kind of absorb this negative emotion, and that might be like the anger might infect them. So again, think of our areas as sponge speakers. Now, one of the reasons why I was talking to Allison about getting the laughter of kids into the home is because we can kind of shift that energy. But again, remember, it's like, what are you filling the sponge up with? Laughter, music, dancing, the emotions that we have can have a deep, deep impact on the places that we live and we stay in. Okay. And that's just important for everybody. Now, if you do live in a home that there has been either a lot of anger and emotional turmoil prior to you living there, or even there has been a lot of emotional turmoil, anger, fighting while you've been living there, there's a way to fix it. There's a way to kind of wash it clean. So here's some tools that people can use. One of the best ways to sort of clean the sponge and clean the speaker is salt water. So I always recommend people who are dealing with what I call secondary trauma, turmoil, when we feel bogged down or heavy with other people's trauma or emotional turmoil, to take a salt bath or a salt shower. I think a lot of people are familiar with the idea of saging and smudging to get rid of negative energies. I'm going to tell you, that's not really how the natives would have used sage and smudge. And sometimes we can upset beneficial parts of our home by trying to kick them out. So salt water is very cleansing, okay, for our auric field, for our energetic field, and for the homes that we're in. There are a lot of traditions that talk about herb and vinegar baths for homes. So there's a lot of traditions that will use, say, hyssop or rue, oils, what have you. There's a lot of traditions about, sprinkling something on the floor and then sweeping it from the furthest corner of the house out the front door. There's a lot of, traditions that do this. So you could look up, nice. Thank you, Aaron, for that. You can look up the vinegar baths. You can create vinegar baths for your home, but you're only going to want to do that if you can establish that there is a negative heavy energy in your home. Because I have had some souls, spirits come through to me that didn't like the vinegar. Vinegar is something that's very repellent. Okay. So when we do that, when we clean our home, we might want to re-sanctify it. Okay. And re-sanctifying it can be, ringing bells, saying prayers, having music, doing things that give that space a sense of holiness and love. Okay. So Erin is chatting here and she says, also the mobile home she's currently in right now. I can't see the chat here, down here. Has been here through, okay. Just reading the chat, and I know that people might listen to this. Erin popped into the chat and said, I've been using sea salt all throughout my apartment in my showers and baths too for about 3 weeks now. I just learned about this recently. Also says, also the mobile home is currently in right now is my parents, and the negative energy has been here through my dad for a long time now. He is alive, but has suffered in negativity since he moved here. Okay, so there's a few things here. So I think this is applying to folks that might be in mobile homes. Okay, the fact that it's not necessarily haunted by either a spirit or a soul. I mean, souls can't haunt buildings like that other than protecting them. This is negative emotional saturation that can affect homes. And I don't know why this is so important to the people that are here and that might listen to this after, but we have to take into consideration the emotions that we have, what they do, and how they can affect the organic material that we're living in. We should be living in organic material, wood and stone. We shouldn't be living in synthetic materials and metal, but what I'm just described will happen less when you're living in like a steel building. Okay. Now, I can't really see Sheena, but can I ask, do you have stuffies? Like, do you have stuffed animals? Do you have like kids stuff in your home?
There's There's one I can think of, and like dog toys.
Dog toys. Okay. So you get a lot of love, in the home.
Yeah.
So that's gonna compensate it. Aaron, I really want you to consider now, your dad has been there a long time now. He's alive, but he has suffered a negativity since he moved here. This is why I think, houses that we move into need a clearing, need a cleansing, not necessarily because it's haunted by negative spirits, but it's just been oversaturated with the negative emotions that have come before us. So again, I'm just really appreciative of the spirits that work through me and want to share that wisdom to folks because I feel like on the other side here, I feel like a lot of dials clicking into place like, oh, okay, that would make sense. We oftentimes associate hauntings with moving stuff or shadow people or poltergeist or something like that. And it's not necessarily that. It can be just the negative emotions. Okay. That's great, Erin. That's great. So she says Erin's saying that she's starting a class next week, which teaches how to clear people in places of negative energies. Excellent. Some of those things, here's a little bit of a class, is going to be salt, vinegar, oils, herbs, things like that, laughter, music. In a place like this, I like my fair share of heavy metal, but you wouldn't want to take a place that's negative like this and have a lot of like death metal playing. You wouldn't believe how far a little bit of Bob Marley would go. Okay, just in terms of like making the space feel a little bit better, a little bit cleaner. Okay, so I want to thank you, Sheena, and Aaron for being here too, because again, I have to pass on this apology of a man in spirit looking out over this home and upset that he would have filled it with negative energy and that negative energy affecting the home. So, Aaron, if your family is up for it, cleanse that house, cleanse that home, take that class, learn it, and clear it as much as you can. Okay. Also, which one of your mobile homes, this is funny, which one of your mobile homes has a pitched tar paper shingle roof?
I have not us. We have like an exterior roof that's metal. We get a lot of snow and a lot of wildfires through here, so it's kind of protecting it. But yeah, it's
Okay. So, Aaron, does that mobile home have the black shingle tiles on it?
And you actually once before had passed a message through spirit to me about this house needing to have something about the roof looked at.
Okay. Yeah, do it if you could, please. Just check in with the roof, especially if there's a very little overhang. Sometimes like these roofs will like not overhang, but they'll just go right up to the side of the building, where there could be like water or ice collecting, and just water and ice are for anybody's home something that is really can be quite problematic. Okay, so thank you for being here, Sheena. Thank you for being here, Aaron, and having the opportunity to talk about what happens with these negative emotions in homes. And it's not just the mobile homes, it's not that. I would also consider too, so Aaron, I think this is for you, especially if anybody in that home has any depressive tendencies. Sheena, I don't know if this is for you, depressive tendencies or what have you. I need you to do your best to fill your home up with the sound of bird song. Okay. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean getting a caged bird, but if you can, like, if you're into the caged birds and you want to have a caged bird, the message that I'm getting is very much put the sound of bird song in your home. That's usually the symbol that I get that somebody is suffering from a depression. Okay. And that is a way to stimulate our emotional response. So if you're feeling heavy, if you're just feeling mean, it's not necessarily from the home itself. Just, go to YouTube, put in like spring bird music or track or whatever, and just let it play in the background and fill that up, because the sounds that we have, this is actually why sound healing is a real thing. The sound bowls, the sound can have an incredible effect on us, our homes, all of that. So if that applies to you, Sheena, if that applies to anybody in Aaron's household there, a good bout of bird song will go a long way. Um, I'm sorry that I didn't bring Aaron up on the spotlight because I'm almost done with this part of it. But I want to talk about oh man, I want to talk about somebody who might like Sonny and Cher, like hippie music. Okay, so Sheena, you got any like for like the hippie music of the '60s, '70s?
Yeah, I love that sound for sure. Yeah, and I haven't listened to it much in a while. I have been feeling heavy, and not great. I would never have attributed it to the house, but one never knows. But yeah, the sound healing stuff is really resonating. And I've talked
And
recently.
you can do that with music. So an interesting thing that happened to me yesterday. So I just came off of 3 live events in a row, like boom, 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 big audience events, and they do take something out of me. Doing this takes something out of a person. The big live audience events, they do drain me in a particular way. So after yesterday's event, I got to the end of it, went to get something to eat. As soon as I ate something, I got hit with tiredness, and I don't suffer from depression or being blue much at all ever, but I just got hit with a sadness, like a boom, and I was like, man, I am glum. I had no reason to be. It didn't make sense at all. I'd had 3 wonderful, beautiful days. I was able to travel, and I was having an incredible experience. But I turned to music to lift me. And that's why I brought up Bob Marley. Because if I ever find those moments where I'm feeling blue, Bob Marley's my go-to. Like Bob Marley's my go-to. So if you love that sound, interesting. So Sheena, here's something to consider. So they're telling me to talk about like Sonny and Cher, but I think what you want to look into, there's a particular sound, and I think people of a certain generation will know this. Phil Spector. So Phil Spector, he had a particular sound, and there was like bells and what have you. Um, Okay, so Leola asks, this sounds silly, but does it matter how much water to add the sea salt to? Um, yeah, Erin's correct. She says it doesn't matter, how much salt. Don't waste it. Make salt water. Make salt water. So if you taste it, you can definitely taste the salt in the water. Mediterranean, Himalayan, or pink sea salt is good. Yeah, just make sure it's not Epsom salt, because that's like a form of magnesium, but you want to, replicate salt water, which makes me ponder why the Earth is covered in salt water in the ocean. Perhaps it's like, perhaps we would have a different Earth experience if it was a freshwater ocean and not a saltwater ocean. Perhaps that's doing us a bigger favor than we realize. So, Sheena, Phil Spector, the sound of Phil Spector, he's of a particular generation. Like I said, there's like a sort of like bell sound to it. I know that Cher sang for him. He was an old music producer from a long time ago. There's also, Meatloaf had some sounds that were similar to that. So the old, '60s, '70s music, that's kind of uppity, so lean into that. I think that it would be really good for you. Now, pay attention to this, everybody, because you might not like Bob Marley, you might not like Sonny and Cher, the old hippie music, what have you. Just don't play sad country. Okay, like you can like all sorts of music, but be mindful of the emotions that the music is bringing out. And not that there's not a place for emo music or heavy music like that, but if you're in a negative space or a heavy space, what's the antidote to that? Not necessarily more of the same. So just be mindful that the music can affect our mental, emotional, and spiritual well-being, as well as having an effect on our physical spaces. So thank you for that, Sheena. I'm going to take you off spotlight, and we're going to go to somebody else here because there is another type of circumstance that I want to talk about. I need to ask if anybody lives up beside or lives near within eyesight at least a Catholic church. Anybody here that lives beside a Catholic church? Can you see a Catholic church? Can you see a Catholic church from your home? Is there anybody here that does that, has
I
that?
can.
Is that Bonnie?
That's me. Yep.
Okay, Bonnie, do you want to get on video?
Sure. Let me. Come on, phone. Do the thing. There we are. Hi.
Hi, okay. So are you right next to it, Bonnie?
Yeah, it's right across the street. Yeah.
Okay. Is there a cemetery?
There may be. I'm not sure because I'm moved here in August, but there, I would guess there is. There's a church and a Catholic school right there.
Okay. So here's the next part of this, okay?
Okay.
So I'm going to put you on Spotlight. I'm going on Spotlight too. We're going to have this conversation. I don't think anybody else is living near a Catholic church, okay? So
Come here.
here's a funny thing.
I'm telling my
that's
partner to
happened.
come over because he knows the area. He's been here longer than me. Come on, Greg.
Okay. So here's what you've got going on, and this is a good thing, okay?
Okay.
This is a good thing. You're lucky to live where you live, all right? So I was getting that there is a home like right next door to a Catholic church that has a group of sisters, like a group of nuns in spirit that are like helping you. It's like a clutch of spirits, but they're sisters. They're nuns. They wouldn't have had families. They wouldn't have had family to look after in the afterlife. They're choosing to stay in the afterlife, not reincarnate. They're watching over. Now, can I ask you, since you've moved there, do you feel better?
Yes. Yep.
Okay. You're being worked on by a group of spirits that are attached to that Catholic church. Now, the funny thing is, who in your home is angry at religion or Catholicism?
Everyone.
Okay.
Sorry.
No. It's okay, because logically it makes sense that there are these systems out there that take advantage of people, abuse people, hurt
Yes,
people, what have you. Which just speaks to there being a larger truth. I brought it up with the Freemasons at the very beginning. There, and I can speak to a lot of different experiences that I've had that tell me and show me that there is a deeper, wiser truth that lies underneath all of these religions and mythologies and all of it. A lot of Catholicism and a lot of Freemasonry are actually incorporating a lot of Egyptian stuff into it. That's why, like, a lot of the Christians think that the Catholics are a cult. There's all of that division and what have you in there. But there's a reason why you feel better, okay? And that's important because you do have a group, and I think that they might travel around this church to the homes trying to help people, visit people. I am asking you to pay attention to the things that come to you in between your waking and sleeping times, okay? Like dreams or strange things that might not make sense to you. This feels like a group of spirits that are working to help, not from a manipulative place, not from a controlling place that some forms of religion can be, but from a truly heart-centered place of wanting to make people feel better. Now, what this also means is that they have the 1,000-foot view. They kind of see things that are going on, okay? What I just heard is that they want to put you through the washing machine. Okay, so hold on one moment. They want to put you through the washing machine. They want to give you a sense of clarity. Okay. Oh man, and this is, oh my gosh, so this is why they use the term washing machine, because they're gonna bring up some dirty laundry. So hold on. Hold on. Okay. Um, how long have you and Greg been together?
Craig and I have been together almost 2 years. Yeah.
Okay. Can you can you guys uh fight like cats and dogs sometimes?
No, no, we don't fight. No.
Fight, okay, hold on. Has there ever been any sort of like tension or like can't get it right?
No, there's really good communication.
Okay. Is this something that you would be bringing up from a former relationship?
That's where that would be. Yeah.
Okay, so Bonnie, here's something. Um, here's the thing. So the washing machine, the dirty laundry, all of that, I have to be careful with how I word this. I get the impression that you and Greg, your relationship has legs. Okay? What I mean is it can go the distance. What I'm going to ask you to do is that you make sure that you never, ever, ever, ever see your ex in him. Okay? Like if you had a relationship or fight and cats and dogs and oil and water and like two magnets that couldn't come together, do your damnedest to heal from that. Do your damnedest to work through it so it doesn't echo into this relationship. Okay? Because there is something that's good about the relationship that you're in. These spirits see it. And oh my gosh, I'm just going to say it. You got to come to terms with the fact that you might have issues with that. like, like,
He's laughing at me. Yeah. Yeah.
like the idea of the legs and the permanency, and oh my gosh, you might very well, Bonnie, be in a relationship that could last for the rest of your life. Okay. And I am supposed to like talk to your hesitancy about that. The fact that you might not like believe it or see it to be true, or it's at some point in time, this person's going to show you the real version of them, or they're going to rip the rug out from underneath you, or they're going to see the real version of you. You've got some echoes from the past that you got to work through, because I think what you have right now is good and it has legs, and you got to allow it to be, and you got to nurture it, and you got to work through your pain so the past and the trauma doesn't echo into the present day. Okay.
Yep.
May I ask, are you an artist?
I think so. Yes. But yeah, I still
Okay.
hesitate to call myself one, but yes.
Okay. I'm being encouraged, like, I mean, I'm supposed to encourage you to put your artwork on the walls.
Okay. That's funny. That's our conversation from today about putting more things on the walls. But yeah.
But your artwork.
Mhm.
Okay. Here's something that I've got to speak to, because you got to remember, I have like, it feels like a group of 7 nuns with me. Like I have a clutch of nuns with
Yeah.
me talking about you, your home, your relationship. They want it to be the best. These are like spirits that are doing community service. Okay.
Mhm.
They're very heart-centered, and they're wanting the best for you. You have to believe that you're worthy of a healthy, long-lasting relationship. You have to believe that, because if you don't believe that, you might perpetuate patterns that kind of corrupt that process. If you don't believe that you're worthy of Greg's love, you might unwittingly, do things that cause it to fall apart because you don't believe that you're worthy of it. Why are you laughing?
Because I was going to ask if you previously spoke to my therapist.
Okay, so no self-sabotage, remember,
Yes.
okay? No
Yep.
self-sabotage, okay? The next part of your belief system has to be believing that your art is worthy enough to be on the walls.
Yeah.
Okay, so Far be it for me to say, because I've never seen Greg. I don't know Greg, but here's what I need to let you know about him.
Okay.
I believe he loves you. Okay. I believe he loves you. And I think, Bonnie, you done won the damn lottery. Okay.
I agree.
I think you done won the damn. Okay. No self-sabotaging behavior. But here's a form of self-sabotaging behavior that I want to bring up to you. And this is really important because you have to believe you're worthy of his love. You have to know this. Okay. And here I am talking about like buildings and house spirits and all of that. And this turns into they see your heart and they want to help your heart. Here's a fascinating thing that I have to bring up to you, and I had to really bring this up in my live event in Manchester yesterday. So you have to learn how to take a compliment from Greg.
Yep.
Okay. Let me tell you what happens when, and I'm just going to use the sort of heteronormative relationship of a man and a woman. Okay. And this can be in all sorts of relationships. Learn to take a compliment. And here's why. Because if you don't take a compliment, okay, if you're like, "Ugh, I'm not beautiful," if you keep like dismissing it and like shrugging it off, here's what you're doing. And I don't think you want to do this, but you're doing it. Every time Greg gives you a compliment and you shrug it off, you're sending a message back to him that you value your shitty belief system over his love. You're telling him that you value the way you see yourself, the way you're trapped in these awful lies about yourself, more than you value his love. Now, in this relationship, how often is he going to get that message before he goes, my love isn't worth it. My love isn't working. It's not having an impact. She values her bullshit more than she values my love. So anybody that's ever going to listen to this, anybody that's here right now, if you are in a loving relationship and you have a hard time accepting a compliment from somebody who truly loves you, who's truly complimenting you, who has no agenda, doesn't want to manipulate you, just wants you to see how beautiful that you are, accept it, thank them for it. Don't reject it, because when you reject it, think of the message you're sending back to them, and think about how that could even be part of that self-sabotaging behavior. Like, oh, I don't believe I'm worthy of love. I don't believe I'm beautiful. All of that. Wow. Okay. So may I ask, Bonnie, is Greg's mom in spirit?
No.
No? Okay. Did he have a good relationship with her?
Mm-hmm. What are you smiling about? Yeah.
Okay. Well, the message that I'm getting is you take care of him like his mother. like I think that you're loving and nurturing and caring. Just make sure that you know how to take that compliment. Make sure that you could you work on seeing yourself through his eyes?
Definitely.
Do that, because you you have to work on the oil and water within you, because there's a part of you that wants like the legs. You want the relationship to last. You want that, like, somebody to wake up to every morning. There's something that wants that, but then there is psychological trauma and damage around, I don't deserve it, I don't want it, I'm better off alone. Like you have a self-sabotager in you that just, let me tell you what you need to do to that person, that version of you. You just need to love that person. You need to love the version of you that's been traumatized and hurt, so they can see the lottery that they've won. Okay? The lottery that they've won. Here is something that I would have you do. Then this is just a little bit of a spiritual sort of pagan practice. I want you to get find yourself some incense sticks that are scented like roses.
Okay.
And I want you to, if you can, walk across the street, put like 3 in the ground and light them and just let them go. Okay. If you want to do that on your side of the street, what have you, let that go. You're going to want to work through, well, let me just say, you should try to work through any anger or resentment at the Catholic religion. You can be angry and resentful at the people who would take it and turn it into like a battering ram, you know, the molesters, the abusers, that I think under before it's manipulated and controlled by humans and it's corrupted by humans, under a lot of the world religions is just love. Okay, so you have a set of spirits that absolutely love you both and just want to help you. May I also ask you, is Greg an artist at all?
Yes. Don't shake your head. No, he is.
Okay. If he would ever be interested in it, he should. I'm getting the idea that he should play around with the idea of being a tattoo artist. What is that about?
I do cosmetic tattooing.
Do you do cosmetic tattooing?
Yeah.
Okay.
Huh? Oh, he's saying he's not that kind of artist. His art is with sound.
This artist is sound. Okay. Maybe that message is for you. If you're doing cosmetic tattooing, could you take it to the next level and do other tattooing?
Maybe. It's been thrown around as an idea.
Okay. Good tattoo artists make like $200 an hour. That's nothing to sneeze at.
No. Yep.
Okay. So just consider that. Make sure you don't neglect your health. Okay. All your health, all your woman health. Okay. Take care of yourself. There is. You don't necessarily have to develop like a relationship with these seven sisters. You don't have to develop a relationship with them. Just know that they're there. Okay. Here's something that I would have you do though, just to kind of honor them and to thank them. I would have you create a piece of art that has 7 stars in it.
Okay.
You know, just stars, you know, just it doesn't have to be religious, it doesn't have to be anything like that, but create that. And another message for Greg too is, again, I don't know how to validate this. I want to thank him for it's funny because I think he's got in his family like the male role models. I think he has the male role models of like the good men, the protective men of integrity, and then the men that are not that. There's a sense of pride in him, and I have to praise him for being like trying to be a good man, trying to be a good man of integrity and protection, but also I have to praise him for not falling into the trap of being like the dirtbags. Okay.
Yep.
So you won the damn lottery. Honor that. Okay. Cultivate it. And maybe tip your goddamn therapist. I don't know. Let them know that they're doing good work because your heart is important. And what I said about the emotions having an effect on your home, think about what you can do to your home. We've already established what happens to a home when somebody's negative and yelling and angry and bitter. But let's establish what happens to a home when the opposite of that happens, when we fill it with good music, we fill it with good smells, we fill it with laughter and dance and, all the good human stuff. It can become a sacred spot. So I don't know why I have to say this to you, Bonnie, but good job for coming as far as you have. It's been a struggle. It's been a slog, but the only way that you'll fall back or you'll regress is if you want to.
Yeah.
Okay, that's it. So make sure. Now, somebody's saying, Bonnie, if you do it, share the video. I'm not sure what that means, but
running across the street with incense.
Oh, yeah. The Pleiades, also known as the Seven Sisters, is a star cluster in the constellation Taurus. I love that. Thank you, Jenny Sue, for that. Thank you for that. I'm a big believer that when we look at the sun, when we look at stars, we're looking at angels, we're looking at, big spirits, that's what those are. So, who knows how these nuns that you're connected to are connected to those star beings. I don't know. I'm not going to get into that, but thank you for sharing that, Jenny. Jenny Sue, with that, here's a project for everybody that is lucky enough to have a home. Make sure that you're filling it up with good smells, good sounds, good experiences. Make sure that you're not, you know, I love my horror movies, okay? But I always finish my horror movies up with what I call a palate cleanser. So, I might watch a horror movie, but I'm going to watch a little bit of the Golden Girls after, a sitcom after, okay? Something
Is this our house?
just like you.
Yeah, that's 100% here. Yeah. Golden Girls and horror
Okay.
and Hallmark. So
Okay, yeah. So again, it's the sounds, it's the energy, it's the emotions that can really make a home. And that's what we're talking about because I started this, and I think that you might have come in later,
mhm.
like you came in later, Bonnie.
Yep.
Isn't this fascinating? So I've had these three sets of spirits, the Freemason guy, the angry guy in the trailer, and then like the seven sisters, the nuns next to like with me for like a week. Like, this is what you're going to talk about. So thank you for being here, because if you weren't here, I'd have been like, who's living next to a church, what have you. So it was kismet that you showed up and that you gave everybody the opportunity to hear this. So everybody work on your homes. Everybody take the information that we shared here. If there's negative energy, negative feelings, it's not necessarily you're haunted or negative spirits. It might just be emotional saturation. And I say this too, grief counts. Grief counts. And I am in my head, I'm seeing Sally. I can't see Sally on my screen, but I'm seeing Sally on one of these squares. If Sally's lived in a home where there's been a lot of grief, that can affect the home. And now it's time for a little Jimmy Buffett. Now it's time for a little bit of, tropical energy. So a lot of grief, a lot of pain, those sorts of things can have an impact on our buildings, on our homes. I want you to do your best to fill it up with good smells, good sounds, wash the walls if you have to. Spring cleaning is an actual thing. So you might want to plan on around the spring equinox, which is around the 21st of March, to perhaps, do something to clean the energies of your home. Even in the best lived homes, sometimes that is an appropriate thing. Now, I thought I was wrapping up, but I want to talk to folks about items that they have in their home too. I was just directed to, like, if people have items, let's say that you have a let's say that your father was a problematic person. Okay, a lot of anger, a lot of what have you. But let's say that you inherited something like a military badge or like military outfit or something like that. Um, and you have it in storage up in your attic. Items can carry energetic wavelengths, and items can like be sponge speakers. That can also be heirlooms, because salt is so powerful when it comes to this stuff. If you have something that you can't part with, but it might be carrying some negative energy, think about what they do to cleanse crystals. Sometimes putting crystals in a bucket of salt will clean the energy off of them. So if you have heirlooms that you can somehow wave through some incense smoke, cleanse it with smoke, maybe cleanse it with salt, do anything that you can to kind of kick that negative juju off of it, consider doing it, because it's all of those little things that can have an impact on us. And it's because we live in the land of mystery. It's strange. It's a lot of this doesn't make sense because we're not raised in a world where these things are standard, but it is a strange and very colorful world that we live in. I'm going to do something here. So I'm going to take Bonnie off of a spotlight, and I'm just going to share a few more moments here before we wrap this up. But I want to ask around the topics that we've talked about, the house, the heirlooms, the sacred spaces, the anger, the emotions. Is there anybody here that has questions? I really feel like opening it up to questions. I'm getting that nudge to open it up to questions, answers. If anybody here has questions that I can answer or contribute to, I'd be happy to. You don't have to.
Hi, I was at your seminar yesterday. My name's Anne. So my husband passed away 2 years ago yesterday, in the house. And he, I had a few signs afterwards that he was here, and I was wondering if you had any thoughts about that. I just moved here just under 3 years ago. We moved here together to be closer to the grandchildren, and then 9 months later, he passed away in the house here.
Sorry to hear that, Anne.
Thank
Was it
you.
a peaceful passing?
Yes.
Okay. So we know you don't have ghosts. We know that you don't have ghosts, okay? I will say for the soul, okay, the soul can show themselves to us, like I was talking about smells and birds and all sorts of things. I will say if you feel like you've had signs, then you've had signs. Okay, I don't want to be the person to validate that for you. You should have to validate that for yourself. May I ask you, as I'm like looking at your square, was he into racing or cars or anything?
He did not like cars. He liked sports a lot though. So he would watch any sport alive, but mostly football and baseball.
Football and baseball, but not NASCAR.
Mm-mm.
It's interesting. I don't know why I look at
But
your
but
square and I get
we live in a town where there's three tracks, racing car tracks.
okay.
Does that make
Isn't that
sense?
funny?
Yeah.
Yeah, it does. It does. It does. Uh, Continue to talk to him. Okay, continue to continue that conversation. Keep that analogy that I use of the one-way mirror is super, super important. If you were in Manchester yesterday,
Yes.
okay. I hope that I was able to establish for you that people carry on
Hmm.
based on what
Yes.
we should.
I knew
Okay,
that already.
excellent, excellent, excellent. So to remember that they're on the other side of that one-way mirror is important. Can I also ask you, uh, did he smoke at all?
He used to smoke, yes. We gave
Okay.
it up together.
Ah, nice, 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 nice. I also want to ask you too. I feel like his hand is over yours. Like I get that, like, you guys might have held hands like that classic, like hand holding like that. I get that.
Hmm.
So that's important. If you feel like there's signs, absolutely. Um, may I also ask, I don't know, you talked about grandkids, so you got to be of a certain age. It's hard because you're about this big on my screen, okay?
Hmm.
Um, did you guys ever listen to the Eagles,
Yes, very much.
the band The Eagles?
Yes, for
Okay.
sure. Yes.
Okay. I very much get that, like, take it easy, like Tequila Sunrise, all that, the Eagles songs to play in your home, okay? To keep
Okay.
that, to keep that going.
Okay.
Okay.
Sure.
To remember too about uh the idea that we're on vacation here.
Yeah. The
And
funny thing is about the music, the sign I got was my music started playing without being prompted, and some of the songs were very personal between us. So one was from the musical Annie, but it wasn't The Sun Will Come Up Tomorrow. It was It's a Hard Knock Life. And another one was that Elton John song, and another one was from a Disney musical. So it's pretty interesting that you brought music up because the signs he sent me were that um my music player just started playing. Somebody else has a question, it sounds like.
Yeah, about the salt water.
Yeah.
So Leola, about the salt water. Again, you don't necessarily need to do this. I would, and I love that Anne brought up the sun, or that Annie song, "The Sun Will Rise Again." So I think it was episode 8 that I recorded about the Archangel Michael kind of being the spirit of the sun and Apollo and what have you. So what I would do is bless your water, put the salt in the water, bless it. What you can do is hold your hand in a triangle and say a little prayer to that spirit, or and pray to love or what have you. Just ask that water to be blessed. You're kind of making a holy water in a way. Then take that and walk through your home. And it's interesting, walk through your home and sprinkle it. Put your hands in, sprinkle it. Sprinkle it. You might want to play some music while you're doing it, some good feeling music. But like sprinkled salt water, it really is that. You could go the nuclear version and mop your floors and wash your walls and do it every surface, but it's really cleansing of the salt water. It's almost like blessing it with salt water. So that's really important. So it doesn't have to be like washing every surface, but sprinkling with salt water will do it. Also, Leola, I want to ask you, do you have any stained glass lights in your home? You can just give me a thumbs up, thumbs down. Okay, there's something I'm seeing, like a light shade or a lamp shade or something that you might actually want to wipe down. I don't know what that's about. I don't know. I don't know. Might want to just wipe it down. Okay. Especially if it's, glass or crystally, if it's got, if you have, I think that might be it. If there's any sort of like crystals on the lights or anything like that, if there's anything like that, that might be for somebody else here too. You might actually want to wipe down any sort of crystals hanging from the ceiling or cleanse them because, organic material, like I said, rock, stone, crystals, wood can hold on to organic material like that. So, any other questions about house cleansing, house clearing, house spirits, hauntings, anything to that degree? I will say these things will pop up more if you have water on your property, if you have streams on your property, if you're near water, it will be more prevalent. If you've got underground veins that crisscross, it can kind of trap some negative stuff there, and you might not be able to do anything about it. But just to remember that it's important, no matter what kind of land you're on, to do your best to create sacred space in your home. Okay. Sue says, I have glass and crystal lamps. Thank you for the suggestion. You're welcome, Sue. That's if you got the negative juju in your home, if it's been anger or emotions or anything, it might just be holding on to it. Not a bad idea to give them a good wipe down, good cleanse. Okay. So we're all wrapped up. I want to thank you for being here. I want to thank you for being part of this, and I want to thank you for being in the land of mystery. I will say to everybody here, I am my birthday is coming up, and this is going to be the last episode for 2 weeks. I am taking a 2 week sabbatical. I'm taking a 2 week break. I would love it to be, absolutely no work, but I am going to be writing. I'm still going to be doing my morning messages on, the Facebook stuff. So I'm going to be doing little bits of work, but I'm going to be taking some walks in the woods, getting an Ayurvedic massage. I'm going to be kind of like working through my stuff, squeezing myself out, going through my own version of the washing machine so I can get ready to go do a whole lot of other events. I have events coming up in Barre, Vermont, in Connecticut, in Gorham, New Hampshire. So I'm taking a break for a couple of weeks before I get back out on the roads. Thank you, Jenny Sue. Thank you, Leola, all of that. Remember, if you haven't seen the other episodes, please go back to the other episodes on this page, on any podcast platform, on YouTube. I'm very pleased and happy with the amount of information that's being shared for everybody's well-being. So thank you, everybody, for being here. We'll see you in 3 weeks. I appreciate everybody here. Take care of yourself, and we'll see you next time.